Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Spider-Verse Retrospectives, and today we're going to be continuing our discussion on the Scarlet Spiders miniseries as we take a look at Scarlet Spiders number 2. Now, last time on Scarlet Spiders, after having an encounter with Deimos of the Inheritors, where he was killed and then came back like moments later, three Spideys in the Spider Army, specifically Ben Reilly, Kane Parker, and Ultimate Jessica Drew, were able to figure out that the Inheritors were using cloning technology to artificially prolong their lives. As such, to try and put a stop to it, they wound up opening a portal to whatever universe the clones were coming from and decided to go there and shut it down, finding a universe that Genix of the Inheritors had completely conquered and pretty much subjugated, replacing the populace with his own clones of everybody, including the superheroes. While they wound up clashing with some of the forces from this universe, including this world's Iron Man, the group was able to ultimately discover that that Genix's stronghold and the source of all the clones for him and his siblings was the Baxter Building. As such, they decided that with a trio of Spideys wound up thinking of a plan to infiltrate the building. In this case, what they had done is that they wound up taking this world's Iron Man's armor, dressed up Ben in it, and the plan was for him to escort Jess and Kane into the Baxter Building under the guise of them being prisoners. And after that, Jess would provide them with would break out, provide Kane and Ben with a distraction. They'd be able to run point on her, they'd be able to run point on her via whatever controls they got, since they'd be able to have more freedom in the building. However, last issue ended with that plan kind of going belly up, as while Ben and Kane were walking into the building, they wound up getting stopped because one of the officers there actually recognized Kane. Well, more specifically, he recognized Kane as Peter, as the head of security for this world's Baxter Building was Johnny Storm, which is where this issue picks up, as Johnny, well, he wants an explanation for why the hell Kane's being escorted in at all, because, well, he knows Peter Parker, and regardless of whether this Johnny is a clone or not, he knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, which means that this guy is probably a clone spider. So he wants to know, why the hell is Ben bringing him in? Which, again, Ben is wearing the Iron Man armor, so he thinks that Ben is Tony Stark. As such, while Ben tries to give some cover and says, "Oh, I don't know why Genix wouldn't tell you about this guy being brought in, but if you have a problem, do you have to take it up with him? I'm supposed to just bring him inside." Well, Johnny keeps finding more holes with this story because, well, if Genix didn't want him to know he was bringing a spider in, then why would Iron Man bring Kane right through the front door? That's kind of counterintuitive. As such, Kane, quickly realizing that this is just going too wrong, decides to go screw this to the plan, ends up breaking out of his shackles, and then activates the cloaking tech on his suit. And as Johnny tries to flame on to try and get him, well, Kane ends up smacking him right in the face. However, Johnny is able to get a lucky shot in and manages to hit Kane, and so Johnny thinks that, oh, good, well, I already know where you are now. But unfortunately for Johnny, he ends up getting well. Ben punches him in the face, which Johnny didn't expect because he thought that he was Tony. And with this brief bit of momentary distraction, it allows Kane to go in and knock him and deliver a punch straight to his face and knock him out. As such, once again, their cover is blown, and so they realize, well, there's no point in trying to do this subtly anymore. As such, after Kane tells Ben to take off the Iron Man armor because odds are it could be booby trapped, they end up taking care of more of the security guards, and Ben and Kane end up go further into the Baxter Building and calling up Jess, who, yeah, she's able to quickly put together that things went belly up, and so now the roles are reversed, as Kane and Ben are now the one, and the roles are kind of reversed, as Jess was able to get away from the security team that was chasing after her, and now the building security is after Kane and Ben. So she now has to provide point. Now she has to be on point for them, and she's able to thankfully get a map of the Baxter Building from one of the security guards that went after her. But ultimately, she doesn't really have access to the systems because they are aware that she's in said systems and are trying to lock her out. As such, she's able to direct Ben and Kane to where all the clones are located, but they need a bit of extra help if they want to get in. But thankfully, it's fortuitous for the two clone Spideys that they're able to find a worker, and they pretty much tell him, "Open this door, or Kane will smash your face into it." As such, he does let them in under threat of face smashing, and they soon discover just how many clones the Inheritors have stocked up. Thousands. Because once they go inside, it's just this long tube of a tower, just all around. Like they go in, there's just like a platform where someone will stand on, which no safety rails, but then again, why would Gen X care? And pretty much just they see row upon row of clones of the inheritors, and well, each row is for a specific inheritor, and well, they can't just destroy. And yeah, there's, like I said, a lot of them. There's a lot of them. While Kane is fully on board with blowing up the Baxter building and just taking care of this, well, Ben's not exactly for that because the building is still full of innocent people, and they don't want and Ben doesn't want them to get caught in the crossfire. As such, Ben ends up contacting Jess and wants to get and asks her if she can access like the power source of the building and just cut the power to this whole thing, because the clones, while not having the consciousness of the inheritors they're linked to, they're still alive. So if they can cut the power, maybe they can just die on the vine, as he calls it, and thus nobody has to get caught in the crossfire. Though ultimately they do still have some problems, as well, there's still a security team on the way, and there are still security systems out there that are being prepped to go after Ben and Kane. Thankfully, Kane says he's able to take care of them, as thanks to the cloaking tech in his suit, he's able to knock out guards without them noticing. And while there are drones that are able to counteract that, well, Kane is still a Spidey, and he's still quicker than its shots, and he's able to ultimately take them out too. However, after Kane takes them all out, he notices something, a little side room. And this one actually was hinted at earlier in the comic, as while the trio of clone Spideys were running around the Baxter building, this world's Miles Warren went to talk to Gen X and warn him about it, and Gen X really didn't care, though he did say that if they went towards special projects, then he would probably be concerned, which, yeah, the room is special projects. Which I probably mentioned. My short-term memory kind of sucks, as you can probably see from these videos. Either way, Kane does go back and talk to get Ben. As it turns out, special projects is, well, it kind of has to do with them, so to speak. As such, Ben and Kane end up going into the room, taking the scientist that they've kidnapped, so to speak, with them. And we soon learn what's so special about these projects. They're all clones. More specifically, clones of Peter. But they're kind of wrong. As while they're all clearly meant to be different spider people, it looks like the spider and the man are kind of a mishmash of each other, as each of the clones in all of the vats in this room are all misshapen, mutated. They look like just monsters with bits of spider peering out of them, or just having their skin off. They're having multiple eyes, multiple arms. They just look like freaking monsters and mutations, and just looking at them almost makes Ben sick. And Kane is so angered at them that he ends up punching out a tank and causes the clone inside to fall out. As such, while Ben tries to calm Kane down about this, telling him don't make this any worse, well, that's when the boss finally brings himself in, as a hologram of Gen X pops up and does try and chime away from doing this. As such, Gen X explains what this room really is. It's a testament to his failures, so to speak. Basically, while the other inheritors tend to just hunt down Spideys and then consume them the instant they get them, Gen X took a different approach, because here's the thing. While he is fully on board with the whole hunt all the spiders and kill and end them all with the prophecy shtick, well, he is also aware that since the Spideys are what the inheritors feed on, well, they might need to get their own little stash of them for later consumption. You know, kind of like how when you raise a cow and then only so you can slaughter it for a steak. And which is what these clone these clone spiders are supposed to be. As Gen X decides essentially to create his own spider people that they can raise and then feast upon when the time is right. The only problem is, Gen X doesn't know how to do it. Oh, he can clone them, like he can clone the body and mind of whatever spider people he captures, but the spider essence, the thing that makes them, well, spider totems, the thing that gives them their powers, he has trouble with that. He cannot get it right, and as a result, it's what we got here. These misshapen, mutated monstrosities where clearly they're just not right. And so, And as a result, Genix kind of consigned himself to failure, thinking that at no point would he ever find a way to master it. But he's starting to change his tune a little, mostly because of Ben and Kane. For you see, not only are these two spiders who have just wandered into his parlor, they're clone spiders, both of which have the spider essence in them and integrate into their systems completely. Both of them have have honest to goodness spider powers, and both of them can eat, and both of them are just like any other totem. So of course, Genix wants them. Of course, these two clones of Peter do not take kindly to this and get into battle formation with Kane going invisible. But Genix sees right through that. This ends up prompting Kane to end up yelling at Genix, calling him a coward, saying, "Come on, come out and face us." And Genix responds in kind, as the comic ends with him stepping into the room, snapping the neck of the scientist that Ben and Kane had captured, and pretty much just goading the two to bring it on, so to speak. I mean, he doesn't use those words, but that's pretty much the implication. Alright, so, thoughts on the issue. This one is mostly action, so to speak, and not really a lot for set pieces. The biggest plot developments are mostly finding the... Okay, there are big plot developments in the issue. Basically, like, they find all the clones, they realize they have to find way to shut them down, and then of course the confrontation with Genix. So, again, some good plot stuff, but the issue is mostly action, so to speak. And, well, I admit, it's actually good action. One of the things that I kind of realized when I was thinking about this miniseries is that it's mostly action-oriented, which some cases can kind of be a problem because it can take away from the story, but I think it works in the Scarlet Spiders miniseries. Mostly because, one, it's accompanied by the narration that I talked about when I talked about the first issue, namely narration that talks about with the individual spiders in this one, with this issue being Kane and his own issues and what he deals with day to day. But so you're still getting character stuff, but in between you're getting all those nice juicy character interactions that I gushed all about when I talked about the first issue. Basically, just seeing them all seeing them work off each other, seeing Jess kind of get slightly exasperated when she realized the plan with Fubar, and she has to switch roles with Ben and Kane. I like that. And again, what I kind of find another little bit amusing is that Ben and Kane are essentially the good cop and bad cop. Like I said, since Ben is the more light-hearted Spidey of the trio, he's a lot more jocular, more friendly, and wants to do more things. He's more willing to quip, whereas Kane is the bad cop of them, so he's willing to jump to business. So it's kind of a nice little dichotomy there, and I like that. It's just kind of amusing, but at the same time, you can still feel that kind of familial connection between them, as they still implicitly trust each other and wouldn't do anything to cross the other. I like it. It's fun. I like it. It's fun. But I do also like... But again, it does also... Yeah. What I do like, too, is just more of the hints of what the Inheritors are doing. Like, we are, going off of the main Spider-Verse storyline, we already know what the Inheritors' big plan is. You know, prophecy, other, bride, scion, cut blood, and all spiders. But what I kind of like is that we see more of Genix being his own villain, which Genix is the final boss for the miniseries, which I don't think I can say for a lot of the other tie-ins. While the Inheritors have popped up in the other tie-ins, they've mostly just been part of the threat. Usually, whatever's I think aside from maybe the Spider-Verse team-up miniseries, the Inheritors have never really had like one-on-ones with the titular Spideys. In the Spider-Woman tie-ins, while Brix and Bora were kind of the constant threat in there, mostly because they were hunting after Cindy, well, there was no real final confrontation with them, as Cindy was able to ditch them when she went to Earth 3145 and she had to give up the ghost, and likewise when Jessica had to go undercover on Loom World and get the scrolls for the Spider Army, while she did have to deal with Morlun, again, there was no real final confrontation, and most of the biggest final confrontation she had was when she clashed with her alternate self and convinced her to take over Loom World after the Inheritors had been imprisoned. But here, what I do like is that the big bad of this story is one of the Inheritors, which, yes, he's not, like, killed, obviously, as he survives long enough to make it to the finale of the main Spider-Verse storyline, But I do like that because they're essentially in his domain, he is the one that they have to face. He's the one in control of the cloning tech, and as a result, he's obviously not going to let the spider people have their way with this sort of thing because it's kind of essential technology for the inheritors. But it is still but I do like that it also kind of makes it that it kind of brings them, it kind of causes them to clash with him. Have him be the final person they have to take down if they want to bring this place down. I like that. That's nice. And I like that it kind of creates a nice little bit of connection between Genix and the clone Spideys. Like, he's already an enemy because he's an inheritor. And again, inheritors hunting spider people. So odds already he's an enemy, but now he's specifically interested in the Scarlet Spider team, which, again, yeah, I'm going to call him that now, or Clone Crew. You know what? It's interchangeable. Either way, he's now specifically interested in them because they're clones of spiders, and they are essentially examples of what Genix has been trying to do. Create clones of spiders that the inheritors can feast on. It's just that he's been constantly failing with getting the spider essence right, so as a result of this, he can't get the whole... As a result, because he can't get it right, all the clones he's made come out deformed, ugly, and misshapen. So now that he's got prime examples here, of course he's going to want to grab them. Because if he can figure out how they tick, then he can get his projects up and running. So, yeah, again, I like that little bit of connection. Otherwise, though, while we do have some good plot developments, otherwise... kind of in between. Like I said, it's mostly action. But it's still good action. I still like the character interactions between the Spideys. I do like how they show the gravitas with showcasing all the inheritors, trying to have them think of ways to take him down. Basically and there's still some slight tension with having the plan go belly up and Ben and Kane having to swap roles with Jess, so to speak. And likewise the ending with Genix coming in and pretty much getting ready to duke it out with the Spideys. It's nice. I like it. Again, overall, overall good time. I like it. Again, sorry the video is kind of shorter than others, but not a lot to say for this one. It mostly is just it's mostly just plot details and continuing along the story. Still got plenty of good stuff. Got great action. Still good character interactions. But also kind of mostly business. But so yeah, there you go. So. That's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you on Saturday as we read the final issue of Scarlet Spiders, and sadly say goodbye to one of them as well. You can probably guess who, but let's pretend you don't know, and, well, I'll see you then. Take care.